Welcome back to my channel, Learning English Level 3. In today's video, we're going to talk about something very important that can help improve your English fluency. Things you can do before going to sleep. Yes, just a few minutes before bed can make a huge difference in your language skills. So, get ready to listen to some interesting lessons and stories that will not only improve your English but also make learning fun and easy. Before we dive into today's lesson, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Your support means a lot to me, and I'm here to help you on your English learning journey. Let's get started. Lesson 1. The power of positive thinking. Positive thinking is not just about feeling good. It's about changing how you approach challenges, especially when learning a new language. When you think positively, you train your brain to believe that you can succeed. This belief is powerful because it affects how you feel, how you act, and how much confidence you have. Confidence is essential in learning any new skill. And English is no different. If you tell yourself, "I can do this," you start to believe it. This mindset helps you face challenges, overcome fears, and improve your language skills faster. When you're learning English, you might feel nervous or scared of making mistakes. These feelings are normal, but positive thinking helps you manage them. The more you focus on your progress and think positively about your abilities, the easier it will be to keep going. Let's look at some examples of how positive thinking can transform your English learning journey. Example Story 1. Sarah's journey to confidence. Sarah was a student who loved learning but always felt nervous when it came to speaking English. She would often think, "What if I make a mistake?" Or "What if I forget the words?" This fear held her back, and she struggled to speak English with confidence. One day, Sarah read about the power of positive thinking, and she decided to give it a try. Before going to bed, she started a new habit. Every night, as she lay down to sleep, she would repeat to herself, "I am getting better at English. I can speak English fluently." She didn't just say it once. She said it over and over, focusing on the words, imagining herself speaking confidently. First it felt strange. But Sarah kept repeating this every night. Slowly, she noticed something incredible happening. The next day, when she had a conversation in English, she felt less anxious. She made fewer mistakes and didn't feel embarrassed when she did. Her confidence grew, and with it, her ability to speak fluently. Soon, speaking English became as natural as speaking her native language. She was no longer afraid of making mistakes. They were part of her learning journey. Sarah's experience shows us that positive thinking is more than just a feel-good activity. It's a way of rewiring your brain to be more confident and successful. When you believe in your ability to improve, you will start to see progress just like Sarah did. Example Story 2. Tom's confidence boost. Tom was a student who had always been shy. He enjoyed learning new words and reading English books, but when it came to speaking, he froze. He was afraid of making mistakes, and this fear made him avoid speaking as much as possible. Tom would spend hours reading English stories but avoided practicing speaking because he didn't feel confident. One night, Tom decided he had enough of feeling nervous about speaking. He learned about the power of positive thinking and decided to try it. Before going to bed, he told himself, I will speak English without fear. I am capable of speaking English confidently. The next day, Tom felt different. He still had some nerves, but his positive thinking gave him the strength to speak. He practiced speaking with a friend and realized something amazing. He wasn't as bad as he thought. In fact, he was much better than he had imagined. He made some mistakes, but instead of feeling embarrassed, he learned from them. Tom felt proud of himself for taking action and facing his fears. This experience changed the way Tom approached English. He no longer saw mistakes as something to fear. Instead, he saw them as part of his learning. His positive thinking had helped him push through his anxiety, and now speaking English became easier and more enjoyable for him. Tom's story is a perfect example of how positive thinking can help you break through the barriers of fear and build the confidence you need to succeed. Example story 3. Emily's end-of-day reflection. Emily was a dedicated student who spent her days learning new words and grammar. She often felt tired at the end of the day, especially after learning a lot of new material. Sometimes she felt like she wasn't making enough progress and would get discouraged. But Emily knew that success came from consistent effort, so she never gave up. Before going to bed, Emily developed a new routine. Instead of worrying about what she hadn't learned or stressing about mistakes, she would reflect on her achievements. She would say to herself, "I'm proud of my progress today. I've learned new words and improved my English." This simple practice of reflecting on her progress before sleep helped Emily change her mindset. She wasn't focusing on the negative anymore. Instead, she celebrated her small wins. The next morning, she felt refreshed and confident. She noticed that when she spoke in English, she could recall the new words she had learned the night before. Her positive thinking had made her feel more capable, and she began using new words in conversations more often. Emily's story highlights the importance of recognizing your progress. Even on tough days, focusing on what you've achieved can help boost your confidence and motivation. Positive thinking helped Emily stay focused and energized, making her English practice more effective. Lesson 2. Review what you learned. Reviewing what you've learned before bed is one of the best ways to help your brain retain new information. When you review lessons, vocabulary, or phrases just before you sleep, your brain processes and stores the information better. This is because the brain continues to work while you rest, making connections and reinforcing what you've learned. The more you review, the easier it becomes to recall those words and phrases the next day. This technique helps you remember more effectively and can make you feel more confident when speaking English. It's not just about cramming all the information you learned in one day. It's about reinforcing your learning in a relaxed way, giving your brain time to connect the dots and make the information stick. Think of it as giving your brain a quick refresher right before sleep so that you wake up feeling more prepared to speak and understand English. Let's look at some real-life examples to see how reviewing before bed can help you learn more effectively. Example Story 1. Mark's Quick Review. Mark was a dedicated English learner. Every day he worked hard to learn new words and phrases. Some days he felt like he was forgetting the new words, even though he had studied them earlier. He realized he needed a way to make those words stick better. That's when he decided to try reviewing his lessons before bed. Every night, Mark spent 10 minutes before going to sleep looking over his notes. He would pick a few new words he had learned during the day and repeat them out loud. For example, if he had learned words related to food like vegetable, fruit, and meal, he would say them several times while also thinking about their meanings and how they were used in sentences. At first, Mark didn't see immediate results, but he stuck with the routine. The next day, when he spoke to someone in English, he found himself using those words without thinking. Felt natural. Mark was amazed at how easy it was to recall those words, and he noticed that his confidence in speaking improved. By reviewing before bed, he had given his brain the time to reinforce his new vocabulary, making it easier for him to remember it the next day. Mark's experience proves how effective reviewing before bed can be. Just a few minutes of reviewing can make a big difference in how quickly you remember and use new words. Example story 2. Linda's daily review habit. Linda was an English learner who loved learning something new every day. She was consistent and studied English every day, but she noticed that sometimes she struggled to remember certain words or phrases. She would forget the names of common activities or how to explain her hobbies when speaking with others. Linda realized that she needed to do more than just learn new material each day. She needed to review what she had already studied. To solve this, Linda created a nightly review habit. Every evening before going to sleep, she spent 10 minutes looking over the notes she had taken during the day. One night, she focused on reviewing phrases related to talking about her hobbies. She repeated the phrases, "I enjoy painting," "I love reading books," and "I often go hiking." She said these phrases out loud and thought about how she could use them in real-life conversations. The next day, Linda met a new friend at a social event. As they started talking, she found herself confidently talking about her hobbies. She was surprised at how easily the words and phrases came to her. Reviewing the phrases the night before had helped her remember them and feel comfortable using them in conversation. Linda's story shows how reviewing can help you build fluency. By spending just a few minutes every night reviewing, you can retain more information and use it with confidence in real-life situations. Example story 3. James' online learning routine. James was learning English through an online course. Every day he would watch videos and take notes on grammar rules, vocabulary, and common phrases. While he enjoyed the lessons, he found that sometimes the information didn't stick as well as he wanted. He realized that simply watching the videos wasn't enough to help him remember everything. He needed to practice more actively. So James started a new habit, reviewing the phrases he had learned each night before bed. He would go over his notes and practice saying the phrases out loud. For example, if he had learned the phrase, "How was your day?" that day, he would repeat it a few times, making sure to get the pronunciation right. He also thought about situations where he could use the phrase in a conversation. The next morning, when James woke up, he noticed that it was easier to remember the phrases he had reviewed. They were fresh in his mind, and when he spoke to a language partner, he could use the phrases more easily. The more James reviewed before bed, the more natural it became to use new phrases and grammar correctly. By reviewing what he learned each night, James not only retained more information, but he also improved his speaking fluency. He was able to use new phrases in conversations with confidence because his brain had processed the material while he slept. James' routine shows the importance of review in learning. Whether you're studying online or through any other method, reviewing what you've learned before bed helps you retain and apply that knowledge more effectively. Lesson 3. Listen to English stories. Listening to English stories before bed is a fantastic and enjoyable way to improve your language skills. It's a passive activity that allows you to learn without actively studying. As you listen to stories, you'll not only become better at understanding spoken English, but you'll also be exposed to new words, phrases, and sentence structures. This helps improve your listening skills, pronunciation, and vocabulary. Plus, stories are often full of emotional context and character interactions, making them easier to remember. Listening to stories helps you immerse yourself in the language. Your brain absorbs the rhythms, tones, and flow of natural conversations, which is different from just memorizing vocabulary lists or grammar rules. You get to hear how words are used in real contexts, and this makes it easier to use them when you speak. Over time, your listening comprehension improves, and so does your speaking fluency. Let's dive into some examples to see how listening to English stories before bed can be so beneficial. Example Story 1. Samantha's Discovery. Samantha had always struggled with understanding spoken English. She could read and write well, but when it came to listening, she felt lost. One evening, after a long day of studying, Samantha decided to try listening to a short English story before bed. She picked a story that was simple but engaging, and she listened carefully to every word. As the story progressed, Samantha heard many new words and phrases she hadn't encountered before. Some of the words were related to everyday activities, while others were used in storytelling to create excitement and emotion. For example, the story mentioned the phrase, "the sun was setting," which she immediately understood in context but had never used before. She also heard phrases like "lost in thought" and "deep in the woods," which sparked her curiosity. The next day, as she spoke to her friend in English, she remembered these new words and was able to use them naturally in conversation. Samantha was thrilled to see how much she understood just by listening to the story before bed. The experience taught her that listening could help her improve her English skills without the stress of memorization. She decided to make this a nightly habit. Samantha's story shows how listening to English stories can introduce new vocabulary and expressions. The next time she listens to a story, she will probably remember even more words and feel more confident in her speaking abilities. Example Story 2. Ryan's Confidence Boost. Ryan loved listening to stories, but he never thought it would help improve his English. He was always a bit shy when it came to speaking because he was afraid of making mistakes. One night, Ryan decided to listen to a story about a man who went on an adventure in a far-off land. The story was exciting, and Ryan found himself drawn into the world of the main character. As he listened, Ryan noticed several new words and phrases. For example, the story used the expression "the journey ahead," which Ryan found interesting. The story also mentioned an unexpected twist, which he thought was a great way to describe surprises in a story. Ryan repeated the phrases out loud as he listened, and soon they felt natural to him. The next day, Ryan met up with a friend to practice his English. They started talking about their plans for the weekend, and without thinking, Ryan used the new phrases he had learned from the story. He said, "I'm excited for the journey ahead, and there could be an unexpected twist." His friend smiled and complimented him on how confident he sounded. Ryan felt proud of himself. The story had helped him learn not only new vocabulary but also how to use it confidently in conversation. He now understood that listening to English stories could make him sound more natural and fluent, just like the characters in the stories he enjoyed so much. Ryan's experience shows how listening to stories can help you remember new phrases and use them in real conversations. It boosts your confidence because you know you're using expressions that you've already heard in context. Example story 3. Anna's daily bedtime routine. Anna had been studying English for a while, but she found it difficult to understand native speakers in real-life conversations. She was frustrated because she could read books and write essays well, but listening and speaking still felt like a challenge. One evening, she decided to try something different. She would listen to a bedtime story in English every night. Each night, Anna listened to a short story that was just above her current level. She loved the idea of listening to something soothing before bed, and the stories were engaging enough to hold her attention. After each story, Anna took a few minutes to repeat the new words she had learned, such as glowing fireflies or a peaceful meadow, which were terms she hadn't come across before. She also practiced the pronunciation of words she found tricky. Over time, Anna noticed a big difference. She could understand more of what she heard, and she felt more comfortable speaking in English. The phrases she had repeated in her bedtime stories began to come to her naturally. Anna was amazed at how much easier it was to understand English speakers and how much clearer her own speech became. Now, Anna makes it a habit to listen to a bedtime story every night. It has become part of her routine, and she looks forward to it. The stories not only help her relax before bed, but they also improve her English skills in a fun, stress-free way. Anna's story highlights how consistent practice with listening to English stories can improve both listening comprehension and speaking ability. Over time, these small, regular activities build up, and you start to notice significant improvements. Lesson 4. Relax and focus on the positive. Stress is a natural part of life, but when it comes to learning a new language like English, it can have a negative impact. Stress makes it difficult to focus and absorb new information. That's why, before bed, it's important to take a moment to relax and clear your mind. This helps your brain process the information you've learned throughout the day, making it easier to remember and apply the next time you speak or study. When you're stressed, your mind is often filled with worries and distractions, which can prevent you from learning effectively. But when you take a few moments to focus on the positive and reflect on your progress, you create a peaceful and positive mindset. This makes learning easier because your brain is better prepared to absorb new information. In this lesson, we'll explore how relaxation and focusing on the positive can help you become a better English learner. Let's look at some real-life examples. Example story 1. David's relaxing routine. David had always been a dedicated student, but there was one thing that always seemed to hold him back: stress. He would get overwhelmed with his English homework and feel anxious about his progress. This stress made it harder for him to focus, and he often felt frustrated when trying to learn new vocabulary or grammar rules. One night, David decided to try something different. He realized that his stress was preventing him from making the most of his study time. So, before going to bed, he decided to take a few deep breaths and relax his mind. He closed his eyes and thought about all the progress he had made so far. He reminded himself that learning English was a journey, and every step, no matter how small, counted. David felt a sense of calm wash over him as he focused on his accomplishments. The next morning, when he started his English lessons, he felt much more focused. His mind was clear, and he found it easier to understand the material. He was no longer overwhelmed by the fear of making mistakes. The more he relaxed and focused on his progress, the easier learning English became. David's experience shows that by taking time to relax and reflect on your achievements, you can reduce stress and improve your ability to learn. Example story 2. Jessica's moment of reflection. Jessica had a busy day filled with work, errands, and studying for her English exam. By the time she finished everything, she felt exhausted and overwhelmed. She had learned a lot during the day, but she felt like it wasn't enough. Her mind was racing with worries about her exam, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she hadn't done enough. That evening, Jessica decided to take a break from her busy thoughts. Before going to bed, she spent a few minutes reflecting on what she had learned. Instead of focusing on what she hadn't mastered yet, she thought about the progress she had made. She realized that she had learned several new words, improved her pronunciation, and completed all her practice exercises. Jessica smiled to herself as she recognized how far she had come. She reminded herself that learning English was a process, and every day brought her closer to her goals. This moment of reflection helped her feel proud of what she had achieved, and it also allowed her to relax. The next morning, when Jessica sat down to study again, she felt more confident and calm. She no longer felt overwhelmed by the amount of material to cover. Her positive mindset helped her approach her English studies with a sense of ease, and she made faster progress. Jessica's story shows how focusing on the positive and recognizing your progress can make learning easier and more enjoyable. Example story 3. Charles's stress-free sleep. Charles had always struggled with stress, especially when it came to his studies. He would often lay awake at night, worrying about his English exams or wondering if he was learning fast enough. His stress made it difficult for him to fall asleep, and this lack of rest affected his ability to focus the next day. One evening, Charles decided to try a new approach. He knew that getting a good night's sleep was important for his ability to learn, so he decided to spend a few minutes relaxing before bed. Instead of thinking about everything he still needed to learn, he focused on the things he had already achieved. He reflected on the new vocabulary he had learned that week, the improvements he had made in his listening skills, and the conversations he had successfully had in English. Charles closed his eyes and took slow, deep breaths. With each breath, he felt his stress melting away. By the time he went to sleep, he felt more peaceful and positive about his English learning journey. The next morning, Charles woke up feeling refreshed and ready to face the day. His mind was clear, and he approached his English studies with a positive mindset. As he went through his lessons, he noticed that he understood things more easily. The relaxed, positive attitude he had taken before bed helped him stay calm and focused throughout the day. Charles realized that when he relaxed and focused on his achievements, his stress didn't have a hold on him. His learning was more enjoyable and his progress was faster. Charles's story shows how taking time to relax before bed can improve your ability to focus and learn. A stress-free mind is a clear mind, and that makes all the difference when it comes to studying. Lesson 5. Create a learning routine. Creating a learning routine is one of the most effective ways to make steady progress in any skill, and learning English is no exception. When you make English practice a regular part of your day, especially before bed, you create consistency. Consistency is key to success, as it ensures that you are constantly reinforcing what you learn. The more regularly you engage with a language, the more natural it will feel over time. A learning routine doesn't have to be long or complicated. It's about building habits that fit your lifestyle and sticking with them. When you set aside even a few minutes each night to practice, you will begin to notice improvements in your fluency, confidence, and comprehension. Plus, having a set time each day to focus on English will help you stay on track with your goals. Let's look at some examples of how establishing a learning routine can help you improve your English. Example story 1. Sophia's 15-minute routine. Sophia had been learning English for a while but felt that her progress was slow. She found it difficult to stay consistent, and she often skipped her English practice because other tasks seemed more urgent. One evening, she realized that if she didn't make learning a regular part of her routine, she wouldn't improve. Sophia decided to start small. She created a simple routine where she would spend just 15 minutes every night reading an English story before bed. At first, 15 minutes didn't seem like much, but she quickly noticed how much it helped. She chose stories that were at her level, which made reading easier and more enjoyable. By reading a new story each night, Sophia exposed herself to new vocabulary, phrases, and sentence structures. After 1 month of reading every night, Sophia was amazed at how much more confident she felt in her English skills. Her speaking became smoother, and she started using the new words and phrases she had learned from the stories in her conversations. Her fluency had improved significantly, and she realized that the consistency of her routine had made all the difference. Sophia's story shows that small, consistent actions can lead to big results over time. Example story 2. John's nightly practice. John had a busy schedule, and like many others, he often felt exhausted by the end of the day. While he wanted to improve his English, he struggled to find the time and energy for consistent practice. One day, John decided to set a simple goal: practice English every night before bed. At first, it was tough for John to stick to this goal. After a long day, the last thing he wanted to do was study. But he reminded himself that just 10 to 15 minutes of practice before bed would help him stay on track. He started by watching short English videos, focusing on pronunciation and sentence structure. Gradually, John expanded his routine to include reading, writing, and even listening to English podcasts. Within a few weeks, John noticed something amazing. His English was improving in ways he hadn't expected. He could now have longer conversations with his friends in English, and he felt more comfortable speaking without constantly pausing to think of words. John realized that it was the consistency of his nightly routine that made the biggest difference. By incorporating English practice into his daily life, he no longer had to struggle to find time. It had become a natural part of his routine. John's experience shows that even if it's hard to find time at first, creating a simple, manageable routine will eventually lead to long-lasting improvements. Example story 3. Maria's word review routine. Maria had always found it challenging to remember new words. She would learn a few words each day but often forgot them by the next morning. This made her feel discouraged, and she was unsure of how to improve her vocabulary retention. Maria decided to create a new routine to help her remember the words she learned. Each night before bed, Maria spent 10 minutes reviewing the new words she had learned that day. She didn't just read them, she repeated them out loud, used them in sentences, and imagined real-life situations where she might use them. By repeating the words right before going to sleep, Maria gave her brain time to process and store the information while she rested. After a few weeks, Maria noticed that the words she had learned were sticking in her memory. The next day, she found it much easier to recall them when speaking or reading. The routine helped her retain new vocabulary much more effectively. As Maria continued this routine, she became more confident in her ability to use a wider range of words in her conversations. Maria's story shows that repetition and consistency are key to remembering new words. By creating a simple routine that worked for her, she was able to improve her vocabulary retention and speak English more fluently. Lesson 6. Set clear goals for your learning. Setting clear goals is a powerful way to stay motivated and track your progress as you learn English. When you have specific, achievable goals, it becomes easier to focus your efforts and measure how much you're improving. Whether your goal is to expand your vocabulary, improve your pronunciation, or have a conversation in English without hesitation, having a clear target helps you stay on track and motivated. In this lesson, we'll explore the importance of setting goals and how they can help you stay organized and inspired throughout your English learning journey. By setting goals, you break down the larger task of learning a language into manageable steps. Plus, seeing your progress towards those goals will boost your confidence and keep you motivated. Let's look at some examples to see how setting clear goals has helped others improve their English. Example story 1. Sarah's vocabulary goal. Sarah had been learning English for a few months, but she felt like her vocabulary was limited. She often found herself struggling to express her thoughts fully because she didn't know the right words. One night, Sarah decided to set a clear goal for herself: learn 10 new words every week. To make this goal achievable, Sarah made a plan. Every evening, she would learn 2 new words, one from a book she was reading and one from a podcast she listened to. She would write the words down in a notebook, study their meanings, and practice using them in sentences. At the end of each week, she would review the words she had learned and test herself to make sure she remembered them. After a few weeks, Sarah noticed a big improvement. Her vocabulary had expanded significantly, and she was more confident in conversations. She could now express herself more clearly and didn't have to pause as often to search for the right words. By setting a goal to learn 10 new words each week, Sarah made consistent progress and saw real results. Sarah's story shows how setting a clear, manageable goal can help you focus your efforts and make tangible improvements. With her vocabulary goal, Sarah was able to track her progress and feel a sense of accomplishment every week. Example story 2. Daniel's speaking goal. Daniel was a shy student who enjoyed learning English, but speaking was always a challenge. He was afraid of making mistakes, and this fear held him back from practicing. One day he decided to set a specific speaking goal for himself. Have a 5-minute conversation in English every day. At first, Daniel was nervous about his goal. He wasn't sure he could keep up a conversation for 5 minutes, but he knew it was a good way to push himself. He started by talking with a language partner for 5 minutes each day, discussing simple topics like his day, hobbies, or favorite movies. He also practiced speaking with himself, recording his voice and listening to it so he could hear how he sounded. Over time, Daniel grew more comfortable. The 5-minute conversations started to feel easier, and he no longer hesitated to speak. His confidence grew, and after a month, he was having longer conversations with his friends without feeling nervous. His speaking skills improved, and his vocabulary became more natural as he used the words he had learned in daily conversations. Daniel's story highlights the power of setting a clear speaking goal. By focusing on one simple but consistent goal, he was able to overcome his fear of speaking and significantly improve his fluency. Example story 3. Emma's listening goal. Emma had always found it difficult to understand native English speakers, especially when they spoke quickly. She was frustrated because she could read and write English well, but listening comprehension was still a major challenge. Emma decided to set a clear goal: listen to 30 minutes of English audio every day. She started listening to podcasts, audiobooks, and English videos on YouTube. She chose content that was at her level but still challenging enough to keep her engaged. Emma would listen for 30 minutes before bed, paying attention to how the speakers pronounced words, the rhythm of their speech, and the vocabulary they used. If she didn't understand something, she would rewind and listen again, trying to figure out the meaning from the context. After a few weeks of consistent listening practice, Emma noticed that her listening skills had improved. She could understand English speakers more easily, and even started to catch phrases and expressions that she hadn't noticed before. She felt proud of her progress, and her confidence grew as she realized that consistent practice was the key to improving her listening. Emma's story shows that setting a clear, measurable listening goal can make a huge difference in your comprehension. By dedicating just 30 minutes a day, She was able to strengthen her listening skills and gain confidence in understanding spoken English. Conclusion. And there you have it. 6 powerful lessons to help you improve your English fluency before you go to sleep. Remember, the key to success is consistency. By thinking positively, reviewing what you've learned, listening to English stories, relaxing, and creating a learning routine, you will become more confident and fluent in English. Keep practicing every day. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tips on learning English. You've got this. Keep it up, and I'll see you in the next video.